Harini, take it away.
Okay, welcome to our celebration of Yale's 5th annual 3-minute thesis competition. My name is Harini Sadish Kumar, and I'm a 5th-year PhD student in molecular, cellular, and developmental biology, and I currently serve as a fellow with the Office of Career Strategy. As you know, the 3-minute thesis competition challenges PhD students to explain their multi-year research to the public in just 3 minutes. This year's competition is unique in that it has been fully virtual, and this has no doubt prompted some new challenges for our finalists. However, they've certainly risen to the occasion and have done a phenomenal job to making it to this point. And we commend them for their flexibility, and we would like to thank the Poorvu Center for Teaching and Learning staff for offering their technical assistance throughout this process. To support the many PhD students who participated in the 3-minute thesis, the Poorvu Center for Teaching and Learning's Graduate Writing Lab once again offered their Public Communications Certificate. I am pleased to welcome Julia Istomina, Assistant Director of the Graduate Writing Lab at the Poorvu Center, to tell us more about this year's certificate program.
Thank you so much. So I will be telling you just a little bit about the program and most importantly, featuring this year's hardworking certificate earners. So just to give you a little bit of a sense of our mission, by completing the certificate, students will be able to hone oral, visual, and professional communication skills essential to any career path, refine their elevator pitch, learn about the research projects of their peers, and share their work with the Yale community and beyond. And our framework is both comprehensive and flexible. So over the course of several months, participants engaged in the 3 core program themes of designing your content, receiving feedback, polishing your presentation. And they did this by engaging in a number of different activities, including attending sequential workshops and events, meeting with directors and or writing fellows for one-with-one consultations, utilizing the Pitch Vantage public speaking software, the online version, of course, and learning technological tools for professional recording. Of course, the last piece was submitting their videos by the deadline. But without further ado, I'd love to present this year's 15 certificate earners, organized in alphabetical order. So you will see, congratulations, Alex Berdacci, anthropology, Emma Corcoran, molecular, cellular, and developmental biology, Richard Krause, neuroscience, and we can do like even if you're looking at my screen, we can kind of clap for them by showing the hands. Matthew Ellis, cellular and molecular physiology, Rajiv Aramili, physics, Noreen Gentry, chemistry, Dana Hayward, sociology, Kelsey Jenkins, earth and planetary sciences, Cassandra Contour, genetics, Rastacia Lewis, chemical and environmental engineering, Kyra Prats, environmental studies, Kirsten Reimer, molecular biophysics and biochemistry, Milena Rice, astronomy, and 2 3MT alums who earned the certificate this year and submitted entirely new videos, Luna Zagorak, physics, and Sharif Kronemer, biological and biomedical sciences. Thank you for being a part of this process. We congratulate you. And we also invite now Dana Hayward to say a few words. Dana is, of course, a finalist in this year's cycle and a certificate earner. So Dana, I take it over to you.
Thanks so much, Julia. So my name is Dana Hayward. I'm a 6th year in the Department of Sociology, and I was a finalist this year. I'm also a fellow in the Graduate Writing Lab. And for me, the certificate was really integral to my decision to even participate in 3MT. I've seen the ads before, and it always seemed like, even with, the lure of the prize, it always seemed like something that I wasn't sure if I could really make the time with my dissertation and my teaching. So this year, knowing that I could get a formal accreditation in public communications really made all the difference for me in deciding to do 3MT. And so I have a lot of public speaking experience from high school and college, from public speaking competitions and debate. But as I got further and further away from those milestones, I felt sort of awkward in making reference to them on cover letters and for employers. So I was really looking for some sort of professional accreditation, and knowing that it came with the name of the Poorvu Center attached to it, and it would be something recent, formalized, that employers could see to really show that I have these skills in public speaking. That was really the draw for me in participating in 3MT. And I really appreciated how the certificate was organized in that it allowed me and encouraged me to build skills beyond what I sort of considered to be my existing strengths. And in particular, I really got a lot out of the polishing your presentation pillar, particularly workshops and sessions from the Yale Broadcast Studio, tutorials on how to use Panopto software, which will be very, very important this summer as I'm teaching in summer session. All of those sort of technical tutorials on staging and lighting, those were all incredibly valuable to me. And I will say that although I participated in 3MT primarily to earn their certificate, I really underestimated how valuable the experience of actually writing the talk and recording the video would be, both for me professionally and academically. So not only do I now have a polished video that I can put on my website, that employers can see, that I can put on my LinkedIn, developing the talk actually also gave me the perfect hook for my dissertation. And I was really surprised after she saw the video, my dissertation chair actually emailed me unsolicited and said, I saw your video, wonderful talk. I love that hook. I think it would be a great way to start the introduction to the dissertation. So all in all, I think that the experience of 3MT was incredibly rewarding to me. And especially the certificate in public communications was incredibly valuable. I'm very glad that I made the decision to do 3MT to earn that certificate. And I would absolutely recommend the experience to any and all Yale graduate students, regardless of discipline.
Wow, thank you, Julia and Dana. Over the past week, the Yale community has had the opportunity to view our finalists' presentations on the Office of Career Strategies YouTube page, and has also had the opportunity to vote for audience selections for Best in Humanities and Social Sciences, and also Best in STEM. And I believe a lot of people voted this year, so that's really fantastic. Additionally, our esteemed panel of judges have gathered to choose this year's first, second, and third place winners. I would like to introduce this year's judges who are kind enough to join us today. First, we have Victoria Bjorklund. Victoria is a retired partner at Simpson, Thacher, and Bartlett, where she founded and led the Exempt Organizations Group. For 9 years, she taught the law of nonprofits at Harvard Law School. She currently chairs the Robin Hood COVID-19 Relief Committee, which has given over $80 million to more than 625 New York City community-based organizations. In 1989, Victoria helped found Doctors Without Borders USA, and today chairs its board of advisors. She holds a PhD in medieval studies from Yale, a JD from Columbia Law, and a BA from Princeton. Next, we have Bhaskar Ghosh. BG is a partner at the Silicon Valley venture capital firm 8VC, where he focuses on investing in early phase startups, building business-to-business software as a service, enterprise infrastructure and data-driven businesses, and helping incubate companies with tech entrepreneurs. Prior to becoming an accidental venture capitalist, Bhaskar had an initial career as a builder and engineering executive in Silicon Valley for over 2 decades, including founding head of data engineering at LinkedIn. Bhaskar has a PhD in computer science from Yale and is a holder of 22 US patents. Last but certainly not least, we have Lynn Cooley. She's Dean of Yale's Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, the C.N.H. Long Professor of Genetics, and Professor of Cell Biology and of Molecular, Cellular, and Developmental Biology. Thank you all so much for joining us today and offering your time to help make this event a success. This competition notably underscores the importance of professional communication across sectors, industries, and job functions. And to highlight this importance, I am joined by Ryan Wepler, Director of the Graduate Writing Lab at the Poorvu Center for Teaching and Learning.
Thanks, Harini. So with all the many academic and research requirements of a PhD program, professional communication skills sometimes don't get the focus that they should. Graduate students focus really intently on sort of making new knowledge. And we thought today we'd talk with our judges for a little while about the communication skills that graduate students might use to kind of maximize the impact of the knowledge that they're working so hard to find. So we're gonna have a little conversation for the next few minutes with the judges. So I'm gonna direct the first question at Victoria, but then give the other judges a chance to answer. So first, I thought we'd talk about sort of what elements of presenting are most important for professionals in your field, and what do professionals need to be able to do when they're trying to engage others?
So I was told very early on in my career that if you're a lawyer and you're in court, the person who can explain the problem to the judge most succinctly and clearly will win the case. That is true in every single field. It's very important to be able to explain why your skills are valuable to an employer. In addition, as a woman who was married with a PhD, in the early 80s, I faced a lot of obstacles. But what I would tell people is that if I can read the Summa Theologica in Latin, I can certainly read the Internal Revenue Code and figure out how to apply it to nonprofits. People really remembered that. They thought, okay, she has got a skill set that's transferable. And the fact that she did the PhD shows that she's really committed to detailed work. And I think that's how every PhD student can be seen in a professional light. It's also important to have a fun fact about yourself on your resume. I always put down that I was the commissioner of the Law Women's Basketball League. And I actually played basketball until I had my nose broken twice when I was about 40. But I will tell you, people loved that. And they always asked me about my basketball career and how did I have time to do that. So I always recommend put a fun fact on your resume. Finally, be proactive. My first job out of Yale Graduate School, I got through a guy I met at a luncheon. I had no idea he was looking for a senior university administrator, but I told him all about my academic work and how transferable I thought it would be in academic administration. He called me for lunch the next day and hired me.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Victoria. BG or Lynn, do you want to follow up with any other thoughts on the elements of presenting that are most important for professionals in your field?
Lynn, you want to take a
I
shot?
loved it. Well, I loved, Victoria, that you made yourself a human being by adding a fun fact. I think that's actually a really important thing that people need to remember, that you're bringing your whole person to this endeavor. And so you don't have to be shy about being a person and letting your personality shine out. So.
I'll probably repeat some of these points for the later questions, but I think, presenting is just one aspect. We're all trying to communicate. I think something for all of you to keep in mind is, you have done good work. So if you're excited about it, try to be a teacher, show your excitement. I think that motivation part is really important. And, wanting to communicate and kind of make people excited about what you're doing. And then developing your own craft of presenting. Victoria gave, you should have, my advisor, Martin Schultz told me, don't try to have more than 3 takeaways in a presentation. Three is lots. If people can take 3 ideas away from your talk, that's pretty amazing. And remember that presenting is just an aspect of communicating. You should be communicating all the time. It's like the David Mamet, if you take ABS from the David Mamet play, Glengarry Glen Ross, you should say, ABC, always be communicating. So I think, communicating to your fellow graduate students, to your thesis committee, to your community about what is exciting about what you're doing leads to great presentations. So I'll just leave it at that. Back to you, Ryan.
Great, thanks, BG. I think you've already started the answer to the next question, which I'm going to direct to you, but so you can follow up on that or pass it along. But if I were a graduate student, or imagine that I'm a graduate student, what kinds of sort of skill building would you recommend that I do, or activities should I pursue during my time in graduate school to kind of develop my communication skills for a professional career?
I'll just repeat a few things and then add one thought, which in my professional life I found to be most important. Always be communicating, hustling. These are important things to, which should come from a good place in your heart, that you really want people to get excited. Developing your own craft. is also important, all the way from the performance art aspect to the slides aspect and the content aspect. And know your audience, know that who you're talking to, whether it's through a presentation or one-on-one. But I've found the most important thing as you do this work is, what we call in industry learning loops. Always ask for feedback and always try to listen, because you may think you are communicating something and creating a certain takeaway. Your audience or your one single listener might be taking something very different away. Asking feedback is an amazing way of just becoming a better communicator and more humble learner. Those would be a few points to maybe take away. Back to you, Ryan.
Great. Victoria and Lynn, do you have anything to add about sort of what graduate students should do during their time in graduate school to kind of prepare themselves for a later career?
I think people don't reflect enough today. I think you have to take a little bit of time to think about what are you really passionate about. People respond to your passions. If you can't express what your passions are, they're not going to be excited to have you on their project. Every leader, every team leader wants passionate people who care about the project on their team. And so it's really important when you're working on something to tell the leader, I'm so interested in this aspect, or could I please do more work on this? And that is the best way to proactively steer your career into the areas you are interested in. Don't be passive and just sit back and let things come to you. You have to be proactive and share your passions. I have so many passions and I'm able to compartmentalize them, but I love expressing them to different audiences depending on what the subject might be.
Yeah, I'll just add, if I may, that graduate students at Yale have different experiences in their micro environments and their departments. And I would just encourage people to take every advantage of giving a presentation of any length about their work, just because it's especially if you're like me and you're kind of shy at the start, the only way to get through that is to just do it a lot, and pretty soon it becomes a lot less scary and you get better at it. So find every opportunity you can to present your work.
Fantastic. So the last question, and we'll start with Lynn for this question, is really about how the judges themselves prepare for presentations or prepare to engage the audience. So judges, when you put together a presentation, how do you prepare to engage the audience? And if that manner of preparing has kind of evolved during your career, could you talk about sort of how it's changed over time?
Yeah, I can say that I did what I think many of us do, which is to kind of switch fields a little bit as I've gone along. So I did one thing in the first place I went to graduate school, and a different thing in the next place, and a different thing so every step of the way. And now even as a research scientist, because of the way science works, you're always learning something new. So you're always having to learn something new. And I try to keep that in mind when I'm preparing a seminar, that the people I'm talking to, everything I say is going to be new. So I try to give good context, make sure I don't use a lot of jargon, make sure I explain things really clearly and simply, because in my experience anyway, the people who respond well to seminars are the ones that understood it and didn't feel like they got left behind by going too fast or cramming too much in or using a lot of complicated words. So I try to get in that mindset of, how would I feel if I was learning this for the first time? And I just really want to explain it clearly. And I would just add that over time, as I've given many, many presentations, I put less and less in them. I try to hone down. I think BG said it, no more than three things are takeaways, or maybe it's only one thing if it's a short seminar, and kind of just put just the amount of data you need to make your point, and leave time for reflection and discussion. And I think that ends up being more engaging and interesting.
Fantastic. That's so helpful. BG and Victoria, do you have anything to add?
As a medievalist at Yale, I studied Ciceronian rhetoric. And Cicero said, tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them what you told them. And I think that rule is still very good. I give lots and lots of speeches, but I try to be very clear about what I'm trying to communicate. I always ask myself beforehand, what is important for people to know?
As I said, it's always very hard to follow Victoria, but I've been lucky in my career. I did a PhD more close to computer science theory, and then instead of going into academia, went into software engineering, and then went up the executive ladder. So communicating to fellow researchers, then to software engineers, then to mid-level executives, all the way to to the board, and and then back to venture capital. We are I'm having to communicate to everybody, to partners, to journalists, to entrepreneurs, to people in sales, execs in sales, marketing, product management that we are trying to recruit into our portfolio companies. And as of last month, I was grateful to be elected to the Yale Graduate School Alumni Board, and hoping to do a lot of communication to the Yale mothership about how San Francisco can come really close to Yale. I would say having empathy and interest in your audience is really important. Kind of recognizing what this person is here to listen to, getting the language right, not too many ideas. And I'll just repeat myself. Learning loops are really important. Asking for feedback, having empathy, listening is really important, because that leads to the next phase of communication, which is what we are here to do. We are here to build value-based relationships, right? Where we, there is a deep integrity and trust between the two sides, but you're always exchanging value. So I think those are, I've had to work on all of this stuff all throughout my career. And now that I'll get to spend more time on the Yale campus, I'm looking forward to how to recalibrate my communication to actually create more partnerships with the mothership. So very exciting stuff.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, judges. That was so helpful, but also just sort of inspiring. Wonderful feedback from all of you. I think we're going to move pretty soon to the video presentation to the announcement of the winners. Harini, am I sending things back to you?
Yeah, so thank you all for those valuable insights and the helpful advice about public communication in your professional lives. And so without further ado, I would like to invite Dean Cooley to reveal this year's winners.
Okay, this competition has just gotten better and better every year. This year, on the last 2 years on Zoom, we've had to innovate quite a lot. And so my first great pleasure is to announce our newest innovation, which is through the generosity of our judges, every one of our finalists will receive a prize tier of $50. So I want to just say thank you to BG and Victoria for making this possible. Okay, so what I'm going to do is announce all of our winners, and I'm going to start with the Audience Choice Awards. And I'll say thank you to all the people who voted. We had record turnout of voters, and so I'm so happy that so many people got to watch these amazing videos. Okay, so the audience choice for Best in Humanities and Social Sciences, and by the way, this comes with $300, is Dana Hayward, who we've heard from already. Dana is a PhD student in sociology, and the title of her talk is The Social Impact of Close Votes. Congratulations, Dana. And then the Audience Choice Award for Best in STEM, so that's science, technology, engineering, and math, is, now I kind of wish we had drum rolls here, is Milena Rice from astronomy. And the title of her talk is Searching for Planet 9 with the Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite. So congratulations to our audience winners, and thank you to our audience for voting. Okay, so now I am going to start with the third place prize. And after the third place, second place, and first place prize winners are announced, we're going to play their videos for you. So so get ready for that. So the third place prize winner this year is, oh, and this is $200, is Dana Hayward from sociology, the social impact of close votes.
In 2000,
2000, George W. Bush won Florida by a margin of 0.03%, leading to one of the most controversial Supreme Court decisions in history. In 1995, 51% of people in Quebec voted to remain in Canada, narrowly avoiding a constitutional crisis. And in 2003, New Zealand passed the most liberal sex work law in the world when one member of parliament unexpectedly changed his vote from no to abstain. Close votes, which I define as legislation that passes narrowly and unexpectedly, can help us understand how law shapes culture. Close votes naturally raise the question, what if? What if Al Gore had won Florida? What if Quebec had seceded from Canada? What if that one New Zealand politician hadn't changed his mind? These thought experiments are examples of what social scientists call counterfactual thinking, which is at the core of our understanding of causality. It's the logic behind a drug trial, which uses randomly assigned treatment and control groups to measure the effect of a medication. We can think about a close vote as a naturally occurring experiment. If the passage of the law is truly unpredictable, like it was in New Zealand, we can think about it as an experimental treatment and study its impact on society. I tested this idea by comparing portrayals of sex workers in 355 newspaper articles in the 6 months before and 6 months after New Zealand narrowly decriminalized sex work. Now, if this period of study sounds short to you, you're right. And that's on purpose. As the period of study gets longer, it gets harder to claim that any changes we see are the result of a law and not something else happening in society at the same time. As the bar chart shows, the use of slurs in the newspaper decreased by more than 50% after the law changed. Certain forms of stereotyping, especially the association of sex workers with drugs or crime, also decreased significantly. References to sex workers as an out-group, fundamentally different from us, stayed relatively constant. What can we learn from this? My research challenges assumptions about the pace of cultural change after law reform. Most scholars assume that it takes years, or even decades, to notice changes in norms after an illicit activity has been decriminalized. But I found real changes in portrayals of sex workers just months after a major legal victory. This confirms my close votes approach is a promising new way to study the cultural impact of a new law.
Lynn, you're muted, just so you know. Sorry about that.
Sorry. I'll say that again. For the first time in the history of the 3-minute thesis contest at Yale, we have a tie for second place. So I am going to announce both second place prize winners, and then Brian will show us both of their videos. Okay, so the 2 second place prize winners, and each of these will receive an Apple Watch. That's the prize. The first one is Jay Heinlein from Chemical and Environmental Engineering. And the title of his talk is From Waste to Fuel, Discovering How to Utilize a Greenhouse Gas. Our second place winner is Malena Rice from Astronomy, Searching for Planet 9 with the Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite. So here are their videos.
At first glance, looking at a map of the US at night seems totally predictable. You can see major cities such as New York and Los Angeles as expected, but I want to draw your attention to this spot in North Dakota that looks like another city, but is actually an oil field, burning so much methane that it lights up the night sky just like a major city. They have to burn the methane into carbon dioxide because methane is a greenhouse gas that is actually 84 times more powerful than carbon dioxide. Not only is this a large source of atmospheric pollution, but this burning is also a huge waste of a potential energy source. Methane makes up about 80% of the natural gas we all use to heat our homes and is absolutely full of energy. However, these oil fields produce so much methane that they simply cannot store or transport that much gas in a way that makes economic sense. So they burn it. Every year, an equivalent amount of gas that is consumed by Central and South America combined is burned as waste. So for my PhD, I am focusing on designing unique techniques to utilize the energy stored in methane gas. My idea for that is to find a way to partially burn it. Methane has 4 energy-rich carbon-hydrogen bonds, and burning it results in breaking all 4 of those bonds, releasing all of the energy stored inside them. This is why we can use methane to heat our homes. For my project, though, I'm aiming to break only one of the bonds. This turns the methane into methanol, which still has 3 energy-rich carbon-hydrogen bonds, allowing it to still be used as a fuel, but just as importantly, converts the gaseous methane into a liquid that is easy to store and transport so that it can actually be used to, for example, power your car. However, turning methane into methanol is extremely challenging. Of the 4 carbon-hydrogen bonds in the methane molecule, the first bond actually requires the most energy to break, so after that it becomes easier and easier to break each subsequent bond. Basically, if enough energy is supplied to break one bond, then there's enough energy to break all 4. So you can think of my PhD like kayaking down a waterfall and trying to find a way to stop halfway down. As the person in the photo can surely tell you, it is not a simple task. Luckily, my initial experiments have shown it may not be an entirely impossible task either. Conventional methane reactions are powered by heat energy, which is extremely challenging to control on a molecular level. However, I am incorporating light and electric energy, which allow me to have much finer control over the transformation and ensure that I break one and only one bond in the methane molecule. My final goal is to develop a reactor system that can transform the methane into a liquid fuel on a commercial scale. If successful, not only will I have developed the technology to greatly reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but also a technology that will drastically cut down on wasted energy.
What if I told you that there's another planet in our solar system that's 5 to 10 times as massive as the Earth, but nobody has ever actually seen it? That's exactly what the most distant asteroids in our solar system, far beyond the reaches of the known planets, have suggested. As more of these objects were discovered over the past decade, astronomers noticed something peculiar. All of the orbits, or the paths of the asteroid's motion, were aligned on one side of the sky, as shown on the right side of this slide. Normally, we would expect asteroids to just be randomly distributed across the sky, unless there's something else that's perturbing them to hold them in place. But the apparent asymmetry has persisted. That's where Planet 9 comes in. Massive objects in space, like planets, can push around neighboring objects without any physical contact, using the gravitational force that they exert, in the same way that magnets can repel each other without touching. That's what astronomers think Planet 9 is doing to these asteroids in the outer solar system, forcing their orbits to stay on one side of the sky. In my thesis, I'm searching for Planet 9 using data from a spacecraft called the Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite, or in shorthand, TESS. TESS was designed to study planets outside of our solar system. But in that process, TESS observes the entire sky, staring at each patch of sky for 27 days at a time. That data can be used for many applications, including searching for this elusive 9th planet. When we don't know where an object is, though, it's not so easy as just looking for a bright dot in the sky. There are lots of objects that should be about as bright as Planet 9 all across the sky, including asteroids, stars, and galaxies. So how can we make sure that we found the right dot? It turns out that objects at different distances from the Earth move at different speeds relative to us, and we can use that fact to figure out whether we're looking at the right object or not. A planet in the distant solar system would move across the sky much more quickly than background stars and galaxies, but much more slowly than nearby asteroids. We can't see objects smaller than Planet 9 at these vast distances because they're just too dim. So if we find a bright point moving at the right speed across the sky, we'll know that it's the planet we're looking for. I've developed a new data processing pipeline that searches for exactly these types of signals. It cleanly removes stars and other irrelevant signals from each data image so that it's easier to pick out the planet of interest. And I search for bright objects moving at all possible speeds that Planet 9 could have. This project is pushing the limits of our detection techniques to discover what would be the most distant solar system object ever found, and to hopefully add a new planet to our textbooks.
Wonderful, thank you. So before I announce the first place winner, I just want to say again, congratulations to all of our finalists, all of our prize winners. This has really been a fantastic competition. And I think I can speak for the judges to say it was just a pure pleasure to watch your videos and try to pick the winners from among some really wonderful presentations. Okay, so finally, I'd like to announce our first place winner this year, who will receive $1,000. And the first place winner is Matthew Ellis from Cellular and Molecular Physiology. And the title of his talk is Using Stem Cells to Model and Treat Cardiovascular Disease.
The cardiovascular system is truly amazing. We may not often think about it, but our hearts are beating constantly, delivering oxygen and nutrients throughout our bodies. Blood exits the heart through our largest blood vessel, the aorta. In healthy individuals, the aorta is elastic. When the heart beats, it ejects vast amounts of blood at enormously high pressure, and similar to a rubber band, the aorta stretches to contain this sudden rush of energy and then relaxes, evenly distributing blood throughout our body. In a condition called supravalvular aortic stenosis, or SVAS, affecting 1 in every 10,000 people, the situation is not so simple. In SVAS, this elasticity is missing. There is no working rubber band. Instead, to deal with these enormous pressure changes from the heart, the smooth muscle cells of the aorta grow uncontrollably, thinking if we make the wall thicker, it will be strong and won't crack. Unfortunately, this causes the aorta to become narrower, ultimately making it harder for the heart to deliver enough nutrition to the body. Eventually, this stressful process causes the heart to shut down, and sadly, there is currently no cure for this condition. In my research, I study the differences between cells that make up a healthy aorta from those of a person with SVAS. Now, I can't easily obtain cells directly from an aorta, as this would essentially require open heart surgery. However, using a technique called induced pluripotency, I can instead take a small sample of skin cells and transform them into stem cells, which can then be directed to become any type of cell in the body. Imagine a stem cell is like a seed of untapped potential, and depending on how you cultivate its growth and when and which nutrients you provide, it could become something as hardy as a beet or something as beautiful as an orchid. That might sound crazy, but here's how it's done. Simply by adding a series of factors that are highly abundant in developing embryos, I can convert those skin cells to a stem cell-like state. I can then cultivate these stem cells with specific nutrients to transform them into smooth muscle cells that have the same DNA and characteristics as those taken directly from an aorta. No open heart surgery required. Using the stem cell model, I've been able to effectively study and directly test therapies on SVAS smooth muscle cells. In SVAS cells, the machinery that helps cells sense stress doesn't work properly, causing them to miss cues from the heart and grow inappropriately. I have discovered a compound that gives SVAS cells the blueprints to synthesize new rubber band-like structures that can restore that stress-sensing capability. I have shown that SVAS cells treated with this drug begin to behave similarly to healthy cells, and I'm hopeful that my rescue experiments will help treat patients with this condition in the not-too-distant future. And as stem cells can become any type of cell, I can use them to study a multitude of diseases, including cancer and even COVID-19, and directly test therapies on any organ system, in any individual, including you and including me.
Wonderful. So thank you, Matthew. And Matthew, are you here? I'd love to ask you a question.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yay, well, congratulations. Obviously, we really enjoyed your video. I think you got me at the rubber band. because that was such a nice analogy. So I just want to invite you just to give us some comments about what it was like going through the 3-minute thesis contest, and what do you think you got out of it?
Yeah, thank you. And thanks everybody. I think I'm going to thank a lot of people through this, but first I want to say that this experience was really fabulous, because I'm sure this is similar for a lot of my fellow finalists and everybody doing these PhDs, is when you're often mired in the thick of the work, you can often forget in the process for me, or forget how, like, what the reason you're there and why you're doing this work and why you're passionate about it. And overall, this PhD journey has often been difficult and frustrating for me. So thank you to the Office of Career Strategy and the Poorvu Center for giving this opportunity for me to sort of step back and then remember why I'm so passionate about doing science, why I'm passionate about, like, conveying those interests and desires to other people, and trying to formulate it in this quick, succinct video. Additionally, this might also help other people, is that I can now share this video with my family. I'm excited to share it with my grandmother, because I think anytime I've tried to talk about my research with family members, often they're like, can you please, like, try and simplify that? So I think hopefully this video will make it more compelling and allow them to understand what I've been doing and why I'm so excited about it. The process overall, I really enjoyed. I thought it was challenging. It was this iterative process, which is always beneficial to people who are just having to test themselves to try and make it better and better. And I think the feedback was extremely critical. I want to thank my partner, Lizzie White, who also happens to be a graduate writing at the fellow at the Graduate Writing Lab, who helped me a lot, especially in the early stages of this production. My meeting with Adriana Cherskoff, another writing fellow, was extremely helpful. And then, of course, Brian Furnett, Hunja Shin, and Ryan Wepler, all of you. I hope you can see that from the preliminary round to the final round, I very much incorporated the things you tried to help me with, and I think it really improved the quality of and caliber of my video. And of course, I want to thank all of the other finalists. I really enjoyed watching all of your submissions. And I think when I was doing the certificate, which was also this great experience, one of the things I had hoped to do was, like, learn about other people in the other fields and things like that. And I think because of the virtual platform, it wasn't as easy to do that. But through this finalist process, it's been great to, like, sort of get these other fields and learn what you're passionate about. And I really enjoyed watching those. And then, of course, I want to thank the judges from the preliminary rounds as well, but then, of course, also for this final round, for just taking the time to watch these videos and give us great feedback. And overall, I just thought it was fantastic and extremely stressful. This whole process has been extremely stressful for me, as I'm sure it has been for a lot of people. And I'm very relieved and very happy, and I'm thankful that I had this experience. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Matthew. And BG, he did a learning loop. So he did what you suggested. So that's fantastic. Well, congratulations to everyone for doing a wonderful job and putting up with the stress and taking advantage of the wonderful people we have to help you in the career office and the writing lab. So congratulations, everyone. And I'm going to give this back to Harini.
Yes, congratulations to this year's winners. We would also love to acknowledge the success and hard work of all of our finalists and everyone who participated. Thank you for all of you finalists. Thank you to the judges, and thank you for the audience for making today possible. And we also would love to acknowledge the Graduate School Alumni Association Board for their generous support throughout this entire process. And with that, this concludes today's ceremony. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.